I have played Pinnacle Glaivier since she released in the West, and I've played her at every stage of this game, from Argos all the way to a Con Hard, as she's my main, and I have loved every single second of it. I can confidently say that she is one of the best design classes in the game at this point. So today we're going to talk about my preferred build and some of the hidden tech that you need to start utilizing if you want to play Glaivier. Let's go ahead and jump into it. It's only fitting that we start off with the engravings, and that's going to be Grudge, Curstall, Ambushmaster, Raid Captain, Pinnacle, and Adrenaline. For the stats, you have several different options. I even have 3 different builds actually, depending on what my synergies are in my party. But if you don't have any synergies other than a support, for me, I personally enjoy the full spec and crit on the necklace, and then a spec swift bracelet. That way you get a little bit of move speed, and I'm telling you that 2.5% extra move speed really makes a big difference, as opposed to going spec crit on the bracelet and not having any extra swiftness at all. Now let's go over the base skills that I'm using that I feel like provide the most utility and the most damage, of course, for the meta build that I am currently playing. Let's start off with Red Dragonhorn. I put a purple Galewind here because I actually put a gold Galewind in the Half Moon Slash, which we'll get into in just a bit. But you want to put a high level Galewind in this skill because it is a charging skill, so you want it to come out very quickly. And you're going to go with reaction speed, determination, and weak point detection. For Starfall Pounce, we're putting a gold Galewind. This is a really long skill compared to the other few holding or charging skills that you have in your red stance. So we want to put the highest level Galewind that you have on this skill because we want to get in and get out. And you're gonna go with weak point detection, concussion, and ground explosion. For Spiraling Spear, you're gonna want to take this to level 4 and use shoulder slam. This is a really good skill for mobility or just for hitting counters. You have this nice dash as your first hit, so you can actually be on the side of the boss and lunge forward to the front and counter like that if you need to, or you can always get the heck out of there. For Four-Headed Dragon, I have a blue Galewind on here. We're gonna go with Vital Point Hit, Violent Thrust, and Weak Point Detection. Now, as you can see, this has built-in crit. This is why you don't have to worry too much about hitting this skill within that 6-second window of Shackling Blue Dragon. Thrust of Destruction, you are going to use Swift Fingers, Weak Point Detection, and Air Ripping Thrust. Again, we have an additional 40% crit rate here. Guys, that you do not have to worry about using the skill within Shackling Blue Dragon anymore, and you're going to want to put a purple Galewind on this skill. Of course, we take Dragon Scale Defense, but we're not going to put any points into it. This skill is so good already. It's absolutely ridiculous. This is your parry skill. You can use it for any knockback attack, like Brell's push attacks when she tries to hit you off of the map. Any of those you can use it with. It is an amazing skill that is very rare, and it just so happens that Glaivier has one in her red stance. Now for the blue skills, you can take a few different options, but your big ones that you need to take are Raging Dragon Slash. I put an Overwhelm rune in this skill because I want to be able to have dependable stagger with this skill, because this is your lowest damaging skill, so at least it needs to have some decent utility, and that's why we have the Overwhelm rune and we go with the additional slash. You're also going to take Quick Prep and Awaken. Also, as you can see, more built-in crit rate in this tripod. Half Moon Slash. You're going to put a gold Galewind, well, at least I do. You're going to want to put a high level Galewind in this skill, and you're going to go with Flurry Expertise, Final Decision, and Chasing Slash or Blade of Tornado. Either one is just fine. I use Chasing Slash because it does more damage. Your other major skill in blue stance that you have to have is, of course, Shackling Blue Dragon. You're going to take Target Weak Point, Blitz, and Quick Prep. And you're going to put Bleed on this. You can put a couple different runes on this. Now, the reason I have Raging Dragon Slash at level 11 is so that I have enough skill points to use Wind Splitter at level 4, which just applies the party synergy of plus 8% for crit damage to the rest of my party. Because Shackling Blue Dragon does not have a 100% uptime, it's decently close, but you also need to maintain Adrenaline. And this is a skill that helps do that and reapply the party synergy just in case you use Shackling Blue Dragon outside of the boss's vicinity to give yourself the crit rate, but you don't necessarily hit the boss and apply that party synergy. So this is a good secondary skill to have just in case during your down times between bursts to apply that synergy and keep your adrenaline up. And then I have Thorn Jab, which is the counter at level 4 for the excellent mobility tripod as well. Now another one that I have is Chain Slash at level 4 so that you can get swoop. Do not use this skill without having 4 points in it to get swoop. This skill is pointless, but swoop is a nice mobility skill that allows you to get out of trouble. Also, it has weak point level 1. I also take Wheel of Blades for the stagger because it's just a very quick, good medium stagger skill. I take Flash Kick. The regular distance that it goes is just fine with me. It's typically just a little bit of space that you need to create unless you're grossly out of position, in which case you might have to use spacebar and that, or you can use Chain Slash and jump out of that to combo your movement. There are a couple of other options for your blue skills, but these are the ones that I use, so I'm not going to go over every other single one. You can get in Trixie and kind of mess around with them, but you're not going to be using any other major skills for blue. They're really just filler skills that will fit your play style best. So get in there and mess around with them if you want, but these are the ones that I use. The order of importance for your gems are Red Dragon Horn, Starfall Pounce, and then Thrust of Destruction. After that, you're getting into the nitty-gritty part where the next most damaging skill becomes either Four-Headed Dragon or Half Moon Slash, and then lastly, Raging Dragon Slash. The cooldown gems on Red Dragon Horn, Starfall Pounce, and Thrust of Destruction are going to determine your burst rotation and how quickly you can continually cycle it. But as far as the cooldown gems for your blue skills, this becomes much less of a priority because they will always be up, as I will show you when we go through this rotation. So you will never really have to worry about getting level 10 cooldown gems for these skills. Of course you can, but it's a very, very last priority thing that you'll do in terms of gaining power or making your character feel better. The main priorities are going to be your big damage dealing red skills, and then your blue skills much later after that. Now with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get into the full rotation of this class. Now this is going to be an optimal rotation, and we'll talk about what you can do if that doesn't go as optimally as planned, but this is the optimal rotation, especially at the beginning of the fight. You'll typically be in blue stance, you'll gather up some meter, get your adrenaline up, and then when you have 4 stack, Shackling, Red Dragon Horn, Starfall, Thrust, Four-Headed Dragon, and then if you need to apply something, Spiraling Spear, and then straight into Half Moon, and then Raging Dragon Slash. Now you're kind of just chilling, waiting for your Shackling Blue Dragon to come up for about 6 or 7 more seconds. Whenever you want to use your ultimate, the absolute most optimal situation to use this in is whenever the boss is countered or staggered, but ideally you will use the blue awakening, but technically you can use either one of your awakenings. They do about the same amount of damage, but I find the blue one a little bit easier to work into the full rotation. Use the awakening and then use Shackling Blue Dragon and then go into your normal rotation for your burst. Unfortunately for us though, this game does not always allow us, actually it rarely allows us to get a perfect optimal rotation. So you need to know what skills you are using do the absolute most damage. That way you can prioritize these whenever they are up, just in case it does get interrupted. You don't kind of mindlessly go through the rest of your rotation even when higher damaging skills are off cooldown and ready to use. Your Red Dragon Horn is without a doubt, when it crits, the highest damaging skill you have. Starfall Pounce is the next highest potential damaging skill, but lots of times both hits are not going to crit, so it will do a little bit less damage overall than your Thrust of Destruction. And because your Thrust of Destruction has built-in crit, so as long as you use Thrust of Destruction when you have this focus buff active, it will be either your second or third highest damaging skill extremely consistently. So those 3 skills are your absolute top priority. And no, you do not have to hit the boss to get this 20% buff. As you can see, I'm gonna go way over here, boom, I have it. So even if they're way over there, you can still go like that and then start damaging and move in and get your scales off. Or if you can't get close to them, for example, you can still go boom, shackling, red dragon, and then Thrust of Destruction. So lots of times what will happen whenever you're damaging the boss is you'll start going through your rotation and you'll like hit a red dragon horn and then they'll turn. Well, you still have a few seconds to run around and hit that Starfall Pounce. Now, if that happens, from my own experience, what I've found is, let's pretend that this is the back of the boss for a second. And you use Shackling Blue Dragon, get your red dragon horn off, and then they turn, and now their back is over here. You come out to the side, and then you can go back in for the back attack without having to run all the way around like this, because there is a serious hierarchy for damage in your skills. You need to respect it and always be looking for the highest damage skill possible, even if that means switching stances to go back to your shackling and then switching again to go back to your red stance. You can do that now, and that's the beauty of Glaivier and their rework, is that you can literally switch stances just to use one skill and then use that skill and go back and you still have the buff. Aside from the situation that I just told you about, being able to switch stances multiple times, you can also use this in your favor. For example, whenever you're in blue stance but you see an attack coming that you need to parry, you can switch over to red stance, parry, switch back into blue, do a skill or two, and then shackling. And shackling gives you a lot of gauge, so even if you only have like half of your first gauge, you can go shackling and you're good, and then switch, you'll get the buff and go back into your rotation. Just remember my little rhyme and you'll be just fine. That was actually not planned. That is too good. But I hope that answered a ton of your questions surrounding Glaivier, the rotation, some of the hidden tech that you definitely need to be utilizing to get the most out of your Glaivier. And if it did, make sure and leave a like on this video and consider subscribing to the channel for more Lost Ark content. I promise it'll be in your best interest to do so. And do not forget to join the community Discord. There are so many helpful, cool, positive people in the Discord, and if you're trying to find a place like that to hang out, then you're definitely gonna want to join. And the link is in the description below. But that is everything for this video, going over my favorite class in this game. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I will see you on the next video.